Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, August 19th. LA Galaxy official now for realsy with the press conference and everything from Marco Reus. We're going to talk about the press conference, what we learned. Maybe there's some more to the deals that we can shed some light on. And will Marco Reus be ready for the game against Atlanta coming up on Saturday? That's right, the LA Galaxy returning to the regular season. Just 8 games left, 4 home games, 4 away games. Just 8 games left in the LA Galaxy's regular season. With postseason, fingers crossed, everything looks good to come. We got a lot to get to. Mr. Kevin Baxter stuck in Newark, thanks to United and all that fun, so he didn't make the show tonight, but the guy we have here is great. We love him a lot. You'll see him on Saturday. It's Mr. Alex El Nino Ruiz. Alex, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, Josh. Glad to be back on here. Great press conference from Marco Reus. Kevin stuck over there, so had to dig in deep, go to the bench, and I'm here, ready once my jersey's called. So yeah, really excited to talk to LA Galaxy.
We are glad that you are here, and yeah, I talked to Kevin today. He was not a happy panda, as you could probably imagine. So basically what happened, he was flying back from Paris, made it from Paris to Newark, and then they canceled his Newark to Los Angeles flight. They then wouldn't give him his luggage. They booked him on a flight that was 2 days away on Tuesday, so basically he has to stay in the hotel and do some stuff. Apparently it was all weather related, which of course always stinks and isn't great, but he's not a happy panda right now, as you could imagine. So we're glad to have Alex here, though, because Alex was at the press conference on Friday, and we get to talk a little bit about Marco Reus making his first training session as well. Galaxy. It used to be real hush-hush that, like, guys would get signed, Alex, and then they would start training right away. It was like, no, they're not training. Now it's sort of like, nah, we don't care. Nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, and that's across all MLS teams now. Like, you'll see, like, players, like, training that haven't been signed yet, right? Somebody on the social media team will post them by accident. Nobody really cares. Nobody really does anything. You don't even get a slap on the wrist anymore. Yeah.
It's apparently all good. So no, Marco Reus out training with the team. He approaches the Friday press conference. Ballpark general, just in the general terms that he said all the right things. He has a calm, quiet confidence of him. Definitely very German. It's a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's too on the nose. He's a very quiet, confident German. And when he talks, he's like, I know what I'm doing. Like, this is nothing new. Why are we talking? Yes, I'm here. The whole deal. Not bombacious at all. I would think more reserved than I expected him to be. A really, really great soccer player in the history of soccer. Marco Reus is a good soccer player, right? So this is not some small-time signing. The Galaxy doing it for a TAM deal. There's all these positives, all the things. You heard Will Kuntz talk about it. What stood out for you, Alex, whenever you go to the press conference, you see Marco Reus?
Yeah, one of the things we talked about before, Josh, right? Like players with Maya Yoshida, once they come into the room, they kind of command an aura. They kind of have this feeling, and I kind of felt that with Marco Reus. Like you mentioned, right? He knows what he's talking about. He has this, confidence to him, the swagger to him. He kind of knows exactly kind of what to do, and he just seems overall like a good leader, like somebody who's going to be a good guy in the locker room. Will Kuntz definitely talked about that. Greg Vanny as well talked about that. But yeah, the one thing that stood out to me is he looks ready to play, looks ready to win. He's fit. I mean, he's been training on his own for the last couple of weeks or so, hoping this move would go through. So he's ready to get on the pitch, and he's ready to kind of show what he can add to this already electric LA Galaxy attack.
Yeah, Barry Blast in the chat room says that I was doing a Russian accent. Just wait. If you wait a little bit longer, they all turn Scottish. It doesn't matter which one I'm doing, they will all turn Scottish. You know,
I thought you at the start of the episode you were gonna like do a Trump impression. You know, you were like, "Oh, we love him. You know him. You love him.
you know it. He's the greatest." So you see him. Here's the thing, and let's put this in before we really talk more about the press conference, because I think he talked about why he was there and his age, and I thought that was sort of an important part of that. But one of the things that I get the impression of, and certainly with discussing some different things, is this happened a lot slower than everybody expected it to. Nobody's going to tell you that it was MLS holding things up, but it's if you read between the lines, Alex, and it's not hard to read between those lines, it seems obvious that there were some hurdles that had to be cleared with MLS, and those were slow hurdles, which I think is frustrating for Will Kuntz if you, again, read between the lines. He's not saying any of this. I'm just guessing. I'm assuming that this is the case. But I think that if you see him talking about the deal, he expected this to get done faster, and I think he would say that whenever he was in the league office, it probably would have gotten done faster, right? It was one of those, it was sort of like, why is this taking so long? He said in an interview, Will Kuntz did, that he goes, I think that there's probably more to celebrate whenever you get it all right and you're doing it all above board and all above. Remember, the LA Galaxy were cheaters, right? Last administration got caught cheating. Dennis DeClosa in there, Guillermo Barros-Schelotto, Chris Klein. That administration got caught cheating. So it's not that far removed for the LA Galaxy to really have to be like, no, for real, we're being real. This is what it all is. And maybe it took a long time to walk through all that. But I think you're seeing now the payoff of it, but two, there's frustration still in here because Marco Reus comes in at the end of the window, technically outside the window, right? Which he didn't need to be inside the window, but it comes at the out, and it was more, I think when everybody was looking at this, Alex, it was sort of determined or it was hopeful thinking that Reus was going to come in at the beginning of that window and the Galaxy were going to have time to integrate him through things, and it seemed like it really did slide that whole month, the whole 30-something days.
Yeah, I think Will definitely mentioned when we got to talk to him in the scrum right afterwards, following the press conference, saying, he kind of had to talk and twist some people's arms at the league's office, right, to kind of be able to kind of move this deal along. Also mentioned, too, that even the discovery rights process was difficult. Said that Charlotte were holding a position where if you don't pay the price that we want, he's not coming into the league. And obviously, that's a position that you might need to get the league involved because, look, they're giving them an offer. Charlotte obviously is going to hold this grudge against the LA Galaxy
and
not
a
allow
ransom,
Marco Reus.
A ransom, basically, yeah.
Yeah, so that part was already the complicated part. And then obviously, Will had mentioned, and he's worked before in deals similar to this, right? When he was at LAFC with Giorgio Chiellini and Gareth Bale, both TAM signings. So he kind of knows how to maneuver through those rules, kind of knows how to be able to, pull something off like this. And obviously now Kuntz being the sole GM, the head of the front office for this LA Galaxy, I think he was expecting it to go by quicker back when he was working on the Bale and Chiellini deals. So looking, like you mentioned, reading between the lines, he definitely felt that, the league was holding up and that they were really trying to get this process to go a lot quicker because the first negotiations, interaction they had were back. It was back in May.
Yep.
That was
back
a while
May.
back.
Yes.
So obviously we've known about this for weeks now, but it definitely took way longer than I think anybody anticipated.
Yeah, it was an interesting press conference. A lot of little tidbits there. We had Will Kuntz on the podcast on Thursday night, and then he had the press conference. So a lot of what we heard was similar to what he told us already. So no surprises there. I think I did want to ask the question. It was funny. We were trying to get questions asked, and then all of a sudden the Zoom didn't work. So we ended up texting my question in order to get it. But it was one of those things. By the way, I am always like, this is not a complaint, but I'm always the first one on Zoom. Like whenever I'm on Zoom and it's like they're going to take the first one from Zoom, it's like always me. And so I'm always the one that's asking questions into the darkness and never know if anybody can hear. I'm just assuming everybody can hear me. And apparently they couldn't, but all the Zoom people could hear each other. So when they were asking questions, we're like, yeah, we can hear you. Like it wasn't a thing. So anyway, it was a little sideways there, but it eventually got asked. But I was, sort of interested in Greg Vanny's sort of initial thoughts on Marco Reus. And it was like, yeah, let's get him. Let's 100%, as we said.
100% emoji. There we go.
Right, there we go. So, no, it is it's an interesting signing, the whole deal, but they wanted to get it done quicker. And one of the reasons you needed to get it done quicker is because of the visa process and everything.
Yes.
I am not expecting that Marco Reus will be available for Atlanta. I don't think that's a reasonable ask. And so I think that that's going to shrink his window of sort of availability. The good news is I think, Alex, he's going to get to train with everybody. I'm not saying it's impossible, right? I would be very clear. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think it's very unlikely. I think it's 20% chance that Marco Reus is available. That's how little sort of confidence I have in that going forward. And again, it's a process. It's a process that's outside a lot of ways the Galaxy's control. And it wasn't something you could do until pen to paper. Pen to paper realistically happened Thursday, Friday, right? I mean, that was it. So we've seen the pictures. It was, I don't know which office that was, by the way. They had an office and there were like plants on the wall and it said the whole day. I don't think I've been in that room. I'm going to have to try to find that room. But
where Will cooks.
Yeah, it's the kitchen.
It's a secret building.
It's the kitchen.
Yeah, it's the kitchen.
It's the kitchen. But now that delays everything. So I think the hope for the Galaxy was get Reus in early. They didn't. Now they have to wait. Now it slows down the visa process. These things snowball a little bit. I would expect that the Galaxy are able to get it here in the next couple weeks. That's starting as soon as they possibly could, all the way through this week, and then hopefully by early next week you would see him sort of in and there. But I do not, and I will be very clear, I do not expect to see him dressing for the LA Galaxy come this weekend. That's disappointing, I know, to everybody, because especially there's 8 games left, Alex. There's 8 games left. You have 4 home games. There's only going to be 3 home games that you have where Marco Reus will possibly be available, where you'll get to see him. The good news is he's on a 2.5-year contract, so you should see a lot of Marco Reus, and the LA Galaxy look likely into the playoffs. So there's going to be chances here. But again, I feel like there was a really big speed bump that took a long time in this, and it slid everything in that direction, and that was sort of indicated in that press conference. I think that's all fair, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, they did their best to get this across the line as fast as possible. And when it comes with the Reus, right, obviously this not being a DP deal, there's obviously going to be a lot of, smaller things, when it comes to sponsorship money, when it comes to everything else that's also involved when it comes to a player like this. It was going to take a while. And look, Greg Vanny, when we talked to him about it, he also, too, was kind of like, I don't know if he'll be available for the Atlanta games, up in the air for sure. But yeah, with, what you're reporting, Josh, yeah, it does feel like 20% is like the right number of the possibility he could be at for this game.
Now let's talk. He talked about his age a little bit. What'd you take away from that? Because he's saying, "Hey, I'm not the youngest guy anymore." But he had again a really good answer, at least for mine. Do you remember that portion of the press conference? I don't want to put you on the spot. I could say it. I don't have the exact quote either. I would paraphrase, right? But basically saying, "I'm not the youngest guy anymore," right?
Yeah, he mentioned that a couple of times too, saying like, "Hey, I'm not the young guy. I'm not the guy who was running all across the left wing for Dortmund. I'm not the guy who was." Doing this and that with the ball. He understands his role. He understands his body, because obviously that's been the biggest concern with Reus his entire career, is that he's very injury prone. He's been doing a lot to take care of his body. This last season, he stayed very much healthy for a lot of the year. Wasn't necessarily a starter for Dortmund anymore, but still the first guy to come off the bench for them, still playing meaningful minutes. And look, he knows he wants to be able to help the younger players. He wants to be able to, be a leader on this team. He wants to be known as the guy who's like not only just a great locker room guy, a great role model, but just a guy who's also going to win games, who wants to win championships. He made that very clear. He wants to, be in the position to lead the LA Galaxy back to glory. He mentioned he knew the history that, the club's gone 10 years, a decade without a trophy, and he wants to bring it back. So he's very hungry for that. And he's also understanding that, look, he's not going to be the franchise player now. That's Ricky Puig. That's Joseph Paintsil. Right. As long as he can be the guy that can help those and aid those to elevate their games, to win games, and have his moments in those clutch scenarios, I think that's what Marco Reus will be more than content with.
And the Galaxy have a real set piece taker as well. I know Greg Vanny was talking about how he was taking them, and he 4 out of the 5 were in the top corner. He's like, I think Vanny goes, we haven't scored off of one of those in years, right? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong that he adds so much to this. And again, the locker room piece is a huge deal. Him talking about, and I thought it was really interesting that he keyed this up almost even before he was like, I'm going to play. He talked about mentoring the young guys. He goes, there's a lot of little details that get you ready for a match. And he was sort of he was indicating that you need to learn what those details are, and that he wants to teach those guys. But you can't. Everybody, I'm going to tell you this, that I've had these discussions with the LA Galaxy in different positions at different times. Everybody they've brought into the team recently, Alex, has been because, one, they're a very good soccer player, absolutely. But above that, they've been good people. They've gone and talked to teammates. They've done their homework. There's the whole thing about them bringing guys in. I mean, they talk to Gabriel Peck's teammates. They know about his character. They know about the guy. I mean, you can see it. Very religious guy. Seems like he's very humble. He's very quiet. They did all their homework on him to sort of do it. Same with Joseph Paintsel. Like, they went and talked to the teammates. They knew about him, right?
Yeah.
John McCarthy, quite honestly, is a big one that they went there as well. Will Kuntz knew him at LAFC, knew about the locker room present, knew what he could sort of be and how he could sort of be in that locker room and with these players, and then to give the Galaxy an option at goalkeeper instead of Jonathan Bond, right? I mean, it was very Moneyball-esque if you want to talk about what sort of happened with Bond and McCarthy and and Mitrovic and everything, which was, hey, we're going to bring in McCarthy. And then it's going to be like, maybe Jonathan Bond doesn't need to be here anymore. And there was a plan in place for Bond basically to depart this summer anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So it was just a little bit earlier. It was a half a year beforehand, right? Jonathan Bond now playing over in England again. So you can see that they've done their homework on guys. Look at, even you go back to Aude is probably one of those guys you bring in. You look at Diego Fagundes. These are all surreal. These are all quality character guys. And you want to know, and it's going to be fun. On Saturday, we're going to have AJ De La Garza with us at Pups of the Pitch, right? So AJ is going to come down. AJ is a huge friend of the show. I mean, one of the guys that we used to rely on in the early days of the show. He's going to be there. We've talked to him about those championship teams and what the difference was, right? And he went from winning national championships at the University of Maryland with Omar Gonzalez to winning championships with the LA Galaxy with Omar Gonzalez and stuff like that. And you're going to find out that when teams get like each other, and they don't have to like love each other, but when they enjoy playing together, that's when these levels can go up. We talk about MLS, Alex, a lot of times being like a 1, 2, maybe maximum 5% difference of effort on the field between the really good teams and the really... You're talking about multipliers. Whenever you have good character guys, good teams that are built together, coaches that can hold those teams together, keep everybody... That's when you get the multipliers of, the LA Galaxy can be 10% better than the next team because they're multiplying it with what they have off the field as well. Marco Reus seems to fit into all of that. Everything that they're doing as well. This is not we can't fit him in piece. This seems like a guy who was there.
Yeah, Will told us that they had talked to a lot of his, Bundesliga coaches, other coaches around Dortmund, teammates at Dortmund, a couple of German teammates as well. So, yeah, they very much did their homework on the character of Marco Reus. They all said, he's a great professional, great leader. He'd been the captain of Dortmund since, I think, 2018. So he's been held in that leadership position, and he understands just exactly what to do and kind of what his role is going to be. Obviously, at this stage of his career, he's mentioned multiple times this likely is going to be his last contract with a professional football team. So I think he's very much ready to attack this with everything he's got left. Because I have no idea if he's going to be the same player in 2026. Likely not. But, look, he's going to do everything he can to bring a championship. He's a player who, let's be honest, hasn't really had a lot of success at the club level. He's won a couple of cup trophies here and there, but he's never been a league winner, never won a big trophy, like a big trophy in the European sense. So I think he's like Maya Yoshida as well. He also mentioned in an interview with CBS earlier this year that he wants to be able to have a league trophy in his locker room, right, when he retires. I think he and Yoshida bring that motivation of, hey, we want to win a league title. We want to be key players. We want to win a trophy at all costs. And I think that's perfect for this LA Galaxy team, which is very young, which needs that leadership and needs to, kind of tune things up. And I think having the experience of some older guys like Royce and Yoshida is definitely going to help them.
Yeah, it was. It's a lot of fun for sure. You can see it. There seems to be a comfortability through this whole process. One is somebody said Will Kuntz is 6'13". He is. Alex especially knows.
You seen that photo of Shaq and Simone Biles? That's me next to Will Kuntz.
That is. Every time Will comes up,
we need to take a picture. Kind of just put it out there.
We should absolutely 100%. We'll make it happen. But no, when Will always comes up and says hi, I'm always like, oh, I forgot you're 12 feet tall. Like it, the whole deal. Guy could have played basketball easily. You're like, oh yeah, of course. Probably played wide receiver out somewhere. Could have. Looks like a professional athlete in a lot of ways. And just has the mind for the GM that never stops, it looks like. So Greg was there. I want to know, though, because there was some criticism, and I think it's unwarranted, but I'll ask you, Alex, is that they were taught, Royce was saying, oh, this is probably my last professional contract. Oh, well, you just admitted that MLS is a retirement league. Does anybody care? Like, the real... outside the people who are always looking to just kick MLS in the shins any chance they get, right? Does anybody care? Marco Reus is coming for less than $2 million a year. Somebody said, well, what would happen if Marco Reus is a dud? Well, the Galaxy only spent $2 million a year. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't think that's going to be the case. But at the same time, it's like, this is not a DP where you're paying $7, $8, $9 million a year, which he probably could have commanded. And Charlotte apparently offered him a boatload of money to go to Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Galaxy aren't blowing up what they have right now just because Marco Reus is coming in. Marco Reus is essentially a luxury piece for the LA Galaxy, right? He's not... You didn't need Marco Reus, right? It wasn't a need. But whenever you have the chance to bring a player like that, you do it. And look, sure, we can talk about, the retirement league, this or that, but the star player, the face of the franchise is Ricky Puig. The up-and-coming guy is Gabriel Peck.
Yep.
Marco Reus is going to be, I'm not going to say he's going to be like a background character, but he's going to be a key contributor. He's going to be a guy who, again, like we mentioned earlier, very humble, understands his role, is going to do everything he can to kind of mentor the younger players. But he's not here to take the Galaxy and be the leader of the reins of the club. He's here to, do whatever he can and win a trophy, and he's motivated for it. He's talked about Ricky Puig, right, about how his talents, his Barcelona schooling is very present. When they were in training earlier that Friday, talked about Peck and Paintsill, very fast players. So he understands the weapons the Galaxy have. They're the third highest scoring team in the league for a reason. Yeah. Like we said, Marco Reus wasn't a need for the LA Galaxy. It was a luxury signing. And look, nobody here is expecting Marco Reus to all of a sudden be given everything by Greg Vanney. He's definitely still going to have to earn it. And this team's at the midway stage, maybe 2/3 of the way, right? So they're just getting ready for the playoff push. I think come next season, we'll probably see a bit more of a role for Reus where he's a lot more involved. Right. But right now, it's not like everything's revolving around the German.
Yeah, it is. It's certainly interesting to watch that. I like Patrick, who said, who cares? It's a retirement league when it works. Like, it doesn't matter, right? And I think that's sort of the general idea for a lot of that. Well, we did have some clan. I don't know. Was Team Canada in the wings here? Do we have some drone footage of Marco Reus playing a little bit? This was popped in Discord. I'm not even sure the person wants to be acknowledged for the surreptitious videoing of Mr. Marco Reus playing out on the left wing, Joseph Paintsill up at the top, playing with the first team. Looks like, it's funny that we can watch a 15-second clip and we're all sitting there going, okay, he's playing on the left side, all right, where's Everett? Okay, so Ricky's in the middle, okay, got that. Yeah. Like, you can sort of check off where all of the different players are. And
yeah, Mickey Paintsill marking him right there.
Yep,
right?
Yep, that's right. So Mickey Amane out on the right hand. So it seems like he's going to fit in, and we always wondered who might be the odd man out. It's probably going to be Diego Fagundes, and I think we talked a little bit about that, but that doesn't mean that that's going to happen all the time. And so certainly something to watch, but just a fun little piece of video that I thought we would share there. I wanted to share this as well. Kyle Sheldon, who is a longtime soccer PR guy, hanging around LA, helped set up Borussia Dortmund's ad that was put into the paper. This is the LA Times full-page ad put in by Dortmund, and it says, Reus, Beckham, Ibrahimovic in that order, and it says, treat them well, Los Angeles, love everyone at Borussia Dortmund. It was, and I talked a little bit about this on Thursday with Hammer whenever we were going, Alex. It's a bit of a love fest right now between Dortmund fans and Galaxy fans, and it's nice to see the leagues sort of coming together and being like, okay, this is a cool thing to have happen. And I think it's a pretty good spot for Marco Reus. Seems to really, as he mentioned multiple times, he made this decision quickly. In May, he was basically, and we know how it happened. Will Kuntz said on the podcast, and has said it before, he got a text from Marco's agent, would you be interested in Marco Reus? And they're like, yeah, send it over to Greg Vanney. Yeah, 100%. Get all that stuff. So looking at this was made up early. This was never, it seemed like it was never going to be about money, right? And it seems like it isn't, although we don't know about sponsorship deals and all the other stuff that's sort of coming into this. It could actually be, so a good amount of money whenever it all gets in there, but we know it's less than $1.7 million. It's just interesting to see his fit, how he trims into all of this, and how soon the Galaxy can get him to play. If they can't get him going here, and there's only 4 games left in the season, Alex, it feels like it's more of a stretch that he's going to have a really huge impact. But that being said, do you need to teach Marco Reus how to play in any of these systems? You probably don't, right?
No. This guy's played in so many different systems. He's had so many coaches at Dortmund. Obviously, a guy of very good technical quality. Like you mentioned, set piece threat. Galaxy don't really have that guy. It's been Diego Fagundes, but I don't think if you're seeing Diego Fagundes or Marco Reus going up for a free kick, Marco Reus is going to scare you a lot more, right? The Galaxy are going to have that fear factor in dead ball scenarios. So I'm looking forward to see just how much of an impact that is, because it feels like the Galaxy, it feels they can be much more effective in that range. I think they've scored only 3 goals off set pieces, which is, I think, among the lowest in MLS.
Right.
So they really need to kind of up their game in that department.
Interesting to see how it all plays out. But Marco Reus officially here. Press conference officially done. The one thing that we didn't mention, which we can mention again, is that Marco Reus wearing the number 18. You can look at somebody like Johnny Perez, Mike McGee. We're big sort of 18s in there. This was a guess that I had put out on Thursday only because I knew that he had started his career at 18, and so I was sort of like, I wonder, the 18's free. It seems like it would be a pretty good one. I think that was the only thing that got Borussia Dortmund, the Borussia Dortmund fans all upset was that they're like, no, we'll kick Peck's number, kick people out, and it was like, nah, that's not gonna happen. So Royce in there at 18. So you can get ready to get your jerseys pressed with the 18. I think that'll be a lot of fun. And you can do that if you show up a little bit early to our Pups at the Pitch game coming up on Saturday. Pups at the Pitch presented by Purina. That's going to be this Saturday, August 24th. And of course, we have a live show, just a reminder, live show coming up at Galaxy Park that day. So here is the schedule right now. The doors are going to open for you at 3:30 p.m. That 3:30 p.m. doors opening at Galaxy Park. You can then head on over there. A bunch of us will be hanging out. Kevin's going to be traveling from down in San Diego, by the way. He's got to cover Landon Donovan's first game in charge of the Waves. So as soon as he's done with that, he's going to run up and get to the stadium and hopefully make it by the podcast before everything is all over with. But Kevin should be there. Sophie should be there. I believe that Alex is going to be there. Hammer's going to be there. I'm going to be there. I think it's going to be a touch and go on Soph. And I know she's off in England. I think she's going to be back in time, but I'm waiting for confirmation. But we'll do that. So we'll get a little meet and greet before the show starts. Figure the show's going to start about 5:15. At 5:15, we'll go ahead and start that show at about 6 o'clock. We should have one and only Mr. AJ De La Garza around that time, and we're going to wrap up the show at 6:45, right? So 90 minutes of podcasting for you, so you can get all excited about that. We'll get you all covered and ready for that game. We'll have lineups. We'll have discussion. Maybe we'll play some LA Galaxy games as well, but you're going to want to be there. We're probably going to have some giveaways as well. I'm going to have some hats in there, so we can't wait to see everybody. It's going to be a great time, but that's Pups of the Park coming up on August 24th. Get your tickets, please. Bring your doggo. We can't wait to see you out at Galaxy Park before the game, and we'll get you into the game plenty of time to get ready for the game and ready to go. All right, so that's exciting. Are you pumped for that, Alex?
Yeah, I'm excited. I really liked the last live show we did, which was for the first El Tráfico of the year. So that was a lot of fun during that watch party. Great to meet everybody. Really looking forward to it. I mean, hopefully we can get as many of the co-hosts as we can. I was on X earlier saying this is basically like if you had the MLS version of College Game Day, right before a game.
You're hyping us up way too much. Yeah, that's you said that. I'm like, man, we're gonna have to bring our A game now. I don't know if any of the you haven't hit your A game yet, but I know most of the guys that are on this show have lost their A game by now. So we're gonna have to find some. So you're gonna get a Cosmo head to put on for College Game Day.
I mean that's Kevin, right? I mean he's the old guy, Lee Corso, right? I mean you have you have it right there. Come on.
Yep, I know. It's easy. It's easy to get to. To my knowledge, they still do fireworks at Pups of the Pitch. I know people have complained about that before, but I think that's also pretty well known that there's going to be fireworks at those games. So do what you can.
I still get scared every time.
Yeah, I jump in the February. Oh, it's so horrible. $2 super chat from Michael. When's the Eli Lesser episode? I would love to. We got to reach out and connect with Eli. He's a busy dude, just letting you know. By the way, if you have any questions for us, send us a $2 super chat. Let's start lighting up some questions here. There's not a ton to cover today. We wanted to make sure that we got you through the Marco Reus press conference. Another thing that is coming up, LA Galaxy at Atlanta. We know that game is coming up, and then the rest of the schedule. So let's talk a little bit about this schedule and where it's headed for the LA Galaxy. They are home to Atlanta coming up on Saturday, and then they will travel away to St. Louis on September 1st. We're already in September. That was fast. Early morning game for the LA Galaxy against St. Louis. 11:45 a.m. body clock time for the LA Galaxy on the West Coast going to St. Louis. Then you're going to see the El Tráfico on 9/14. That is the last one. The LA Galaxy 0 for 2 so far. Really big bellwether test of the LA Galaxy and what they can do in the playoffs and whether or not LAFC is going to be sort of this impenetrable force that they need. So, Olivier Giroud playing for LAFC, expect him to be in attendance for that game and playing. So this is going to be a big deal. There's going to be a little bit of changes. I would think by then you could guarantee Marco Reus also available. So how is that going to fare in one of the biggest games of the season? And it may not mean a whole bunch. In fact, it could be for the Western Conference, right? You could decide the Western Conference in this game. Having said that, don't count that it's going to be that game that determines everything either. But it could mean nothing in big terms, but it's going to be a lot mentally for both of these teams and what happens there. So trying to see what the LA Galaxy going to do. Away to Portland, and then home to Vancouver, away to Colorado, home to Austin, final game away to Houston, which is never where you want to be whenever you're trying to play for anything. But we'll see what decision day has for the LA Galaxy on October 19th. So a lot of fun coming your way. Alex, in a perfect world, the LA Galaxy with 4 home games, 4 away games, a balanced schedule. You look at teams like Colorado and LAFC, who are still in Leagues Cup, still playing games. You have LAFC, who has 2 games in hand on the LA Galaxy as well. The more games that LAFC plays, probably the better for the LA Galaxy in terms of what LAFC will be towards the end of the season. But in a perfect world, as you're looking at the remainder of these games, what do the Galaxy need to do in your mind to sort of be in that 1-2 position in the Western Conference?
Yeah, obviously the game against LAFC is going to be the one that matters, considering LAFC are a game in behind the LA Galaxy, if I'm correct. So they kind of need to be able to make up the ground there. Look, Portland was a tough game. They're going to be going on the road there. Vancouver is still, not as, in the great form that they were at the start of the year, but still a tough opponent. Colorado, I really don't know. I'm probably going to forget about that game. Everybody forgets about every single time the Galaxy go visit Colorado. LA Austin might be interesting because Austin have had some interesting pieces. They've been able to pick up their form, so that one might be good. And obviously the Houston LA one, most of the time it doesn't end good for the LA Galaxy there. So I'm expecting a draw at least in that game already.
Yeah, it should be interesting, especially whenever you look at Houston, what Houston's trying to do, sort of in their spots. Houston at the 6th spot there, so it could be a really important game depending on what happens. There's still a lot of movement here in this Western. Austin right on that bubble in terms of playoffs, not playoffs, right? The 9-8 in the playoff game right now is Minnesota and Portland. The LA Galaxy would be that number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Let's see, a $10 super chat from Patrick. Surely I won't be able to be at the Atlanta game and meet the hardest working podcaster in showbiz, COG. Thanks for Smothered. Is that for another great show? I think it was another great show, Josh and Alex and company. I'm excited for the Royce show. Everybody is, and I think everybody's waiting. I said I ran into a Galaxy fan in the parking lot of the donut shop, and we were talking for a second, and she was like, "I can't wait to see Marco Reus." Like that was the highlight, and I'm like, you know what? I'm sort of there with you. I think it's going to be an exciting time for everybody to see. So thank you, Patrick. Appreciate that. But again, keep those questions coming for us. But I'm with you. There's not any easy games in here that you really want. Having Colorado playing more games is always a good thing. Having LAFC play more games, and again, they have 10 games remaining. The Galaxy have 8.
And LAFC are still in the Open Cup as well.
They are still in the Open Cup, and they're in Leagues Cup. So, again, the more games, I think, the better. Yeah, you want them real tired by the end, right? I mean, that's really what you want. You want some exhaustion in all of these teams. Same goes with Colorado, who's really been an up-and-cupping team this year. You want them to play, as long as they can possibly play as well in a lot of ways. The Galaxy have a mental hurdle and a mental block against LAFC. I'm waiting to see if they can get over it. If they can't, if they lose another game to LAFC, if they can just show a little bit of danger against LAFC, make LAFC sweat a little bit, I think that changes things going into the playoffs, right? And that's what you want to do. You want to change the algorithm a little bit. You want to change the way that they think about you. They want to change things. Oh, this isn't the same team that we played all year. But clearly, I think the favorites right now in the Western Conference, it's LAFC, and I don't think you can take that away from them. I think RSL would have been there. I don't love what RSL did in this transfer window. Quite honestly, Colorado got worse in the transfer window as well, moving one of their big defenders, right? And so, like, you're watching some of these things, and you're like, they had to take the money, and you get it, and you get it, but you don't want to be in that position where you have to take the money whenever you're in contention for an MLS Cup. I would say RSL is in contention for an MLS Cup. They have been a very good team this year. Colorado's on the edge of that. They need to be a little bit better, but did they get better? It doesn't feel like they got better. So There's some things here that I would say the Galaxy, LAFC right now are your top 2 favorites in the Western Conference, and how this plays out for the rest of this is really, really important. So 8 games, Galaxy wins 6 of those. I mean, I think that's it. I don't care what happens to the other 2 games. I don't care if you lose them. What doesn't matter. Getting results on the road will be really important too with 4 games. I'm counting on 2 away wins, which is tough. Especially whenever you look at those aways. So
all that matters is you get a home game in the playoffs, right? That'll give you the best chance. Just stay in those top 4 spots. That's
what you want, but I really feel like it's one of those. Let's see, Adam, $5 super chat. Hey guys, sorry you must have went over this. What time will be the live show? But where will the live show be and the start time? So Galaxy Park out in front of the stadium, and then our live show is going to start at 5:15. But we're going to be there saying hi, talking to everybody beforehand, starting at 3:30. So come on down. We're just going to be hanging out, and it's probably going to be hot, and we're going to try to, just chill for a little while and wait for everything to start. So we have to set up at like 2 anyway, so we might as well just hang out. It's not like we're going anywhere. So so that's what we got. So I appreciate that, Adam. JT, $5 super chat. MLB has already posted the 2025 schedule. When will MLS post their 2025 schedule? Moving to Baltimore area soon. Hope to see LA Galaxy at DC, New York, or Philly. Listen, it ain't coming until next year. Like it usually doesn't get released too. Maybe did they do it in December this year?
Yeah, it's like middle of December.
Okay,
usually when they release it. So yeah, you're not gonna get it anytime soon.
Let's see. Scott, $10 super chat. OKG, send up some prayers for Gary and his mom who is in the hospital. Hey, Gary, we're thinking about you. Is it Gary and his mom are both in the hospital, or is it Gary's mom who's in the hospital? Either way, sending thoughts to both of you. Thanks, Scott, as always. Always thinking about you as well. $10 super chat. Appreciate that. Can we bring pupusas for the crew? I mean, are we going to say no to pupusas, Alex?
I'm saying no.
Okay. I was going to say, where's my AFCHA guys? Can we get delivered pupusas for us early? Can we have some early? Like, just like the first ones off the griddle, just ship them on our way out at Galaxy Park. We always appreciate everybody over at AFCHA for sure. $5 super chat from Tim. Hey guys, do you think Brugman will be back to old form on Saturday? Thanks. I think maybe he's still got some cobwebs. I mean, you can tell. I think Garces still has some rust. I mean, you're talking about guys who Garces will have rust. If Jovalic makes it back, and let's talk about it. You had the update on these guys. Where's all the injured guys at?
Yeah, so in talking to Greg Vanny, he mentioned that Julian Aude, the left back, Dejan Jovalic, they're going to start training this week, start running their return to play, as Greg Vanny likes to call it, right? Getting back into fitness, match sharpness, do 11-11 versus the other teams in training and all the guys there. Miro Garces, just a week later, he'll start training with his contusion. So he's going to, take a little bit longer, which makes sense because, this is a guy who relies a lot on his athleticism. That's really the special thing about him. So you kind of want to be cautious on that. I'm interested to see Brugman. If I'm correct, he didn't play against Seattle, right? He wasn't out on there on the turf pitch. So I'm interested to see. He's hasn't played in a while.
I thought he did play. But
maybe
you're right.
Late in the game. I don't remember. I know he didn't start that game.
Check us, chat. Where was he?
Check live. I'm be interested to see in Brugman because obviously he had those mistakes and that rustiness against San Jose. Looked a little bit better against Chivas, right, where he played the 90 minutes.
Right.
So I think it'll be interesting to see what he does. If he does start, it'll be interesting though. Are you gonna take Cerrillo off? I feel like you need a little bit of that, guy who can cover a bit more ground, be a bit more of an enforcer. But look, he and Ricky Puig have this very special connection when they're on the pitch. They like each other a lot.
Yeah.
They love to pass the ball to one another. They understand each other's movement, and I feel like I think Greg Vanny, if he wants to be able to attack Atlanta early, be able to kind of confuse them and make them work, starting Brugman is going to be exactly what'll do that.
It is. And by the way, it was Gary's mom who's in the hospital. So Gary, thinking about you and your mom and hope everybody's well. So everybody here at the podcast misses you in the live chat. Hopefully we'll see everybody back in there and your mom's all good. All right. So certainly want to see that. Adam with a $5 shoot chat. Do you guys see MLS doing something with the California teams next season? There's a California Cup. I don't know if it's going to be official, but it will be started.
I don't think it's going to be an MLS because Copa Tejas is between the fans, right? All the clubs in Tejas. So I think California Cup, it'll be between all the supporters. I don't think it's going to be like an MLS kind of thing where they kind of officially mandated and, are in charge of all that.
Yeah, like Cascadia Cup, I think, is also more supporters based. Although I think MLS tried to take that away, and they got all mad, and maybe they even did. But it's one of those.
It's Cascadia. It's one of those, they'll get mad.
Yeah, it's Cascadia. They're going to get upset about everything anyway. But no, I think there's going to be a California Cup. I think you have to at this point, and it's going to be fun. But just make it so way. And again, next year, I think you get away from having play teams 3 times. because you're going to get another team in, and that should make everything 2-2-2-2-2. So it should make everything even for the Western Conference side of things. And so when that happens, then it's even that you're playing home and away against each Western Conference, which means the California Cup will be decided in an equitable way. Up to a certain point. So the whole deal. By the way, there was a joke in the Ruiz thing, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that there's a... By the way, Adam, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. But they were saying, we haven't told them about the artificial turf. Marco Reus knows very well that there is artificial turf in certain places. Lucky for him, he gets... is it one? Is it just the Portland game, or is there another one that I was thinking down the stretch? I thought there were two.
It's just the Portland.
Yeah, I think it is. Okay,
just
good.
Portland,
just the Portland game. So just the Portland game. He will get the Portland game on turf. And maybe the Galaxy just decided to not play that game. We'll see how it all goes down. That's gonna be one of those interesting games to watch because Portland's been sort of quiet, much too quiet this year for me.
Hasn't been quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Portland in at the 8, Seattle in at 7. Cascadia has been like sneaky sort of quiet. Vancouver at the 5. Again, you're looking at the 5th place team that you're going to be playing in the Western Conference. So the funny thing is whenever you're first, you're favored over all the teams, right? So I guess the Galaxy are supposed to beat everybody. So 8 wins. Just go on like a 15-game winning streak to end the season. Aren't Greg Vanney's teams always made for that? Yeah,
I mean, look, Greg Vanney, he's obviously been in these positions with Toronto. That's given him years of experience, right, in MLS. He just knows you need to get hot at the right time, right? Peak at the right time, as Hammer says. Feels like other teams in the Western Conference, like LAFC, like Colorado. I feel like they're peaking right now because LAFC are in a good run. Colorado as well. Feels like they're peaking a bit too early before playoff time. So, yeah, I'm expecting the Galaxy to kind of go up another gear now with Marco Reus in the attack. You're hoping the defense keeps taking the little baby steps forward to get better. And then eventually you'll be a juggernaut in the playoffs. So I'm assuming that's what Vanney's banking on, and I'm assuming that's the game plan once the crunch time comes around.
Well, what are the chances the Galaxy's longest winning streak comes in the MLS Cup playoffs? Like, what is 4 games? It's going to be 5-6 game winning streak, and that's finally whenever they figure it all out.
I mean, it's like a writer's dream, because you're like, first time under Greg Vanney, the first time this season they beat LAFC. Miguel Berry scores the game-winning goal for MLS Cup, right? Things like that. So what you imagine, it's the perfect storybook. Look, it's playoff time. Anything happens. That's why it's so special, and it's these moments that really define champions. And the LA Galaxy, they have a championship caliber player now in Marco Reus. So interesting to see what happens.
Michael, $2 super chat. Honest opinion: will Leagues Cup exist in 3 years? In its current form, no, because they've changed it like every year. Really, they've started morphing and doing different things. I think the money's probably going to be there. The viewership is going to be there. By the way, no Liga MX teams in this one. The semifinals are Columbus versus hosting Philadelphia and LAFC versus Colorado. Those are the final. There is no Liga MX teams in Leagues Cup.
Yeah.
You know what that means, Alex? Nobody's watching the next two groups of games, right?
Actually, Liga MX already started their league already.
They're like,
were you there in the press? I don't think so. When I was talking with some of our colleagues in the press area during the press conference against Chivas, I had called Leagues Cup basically an arranged marriage because it's literally what it is. You have, the commissioner of MLS, Don Garber, president of Liga MX, Mikel Arriola. They just got these two leagues together for the money. Like an arranged marriage, you're going to have some moments. You're going to have mostly bad. In 3 years, probably a divorce. And that's what I'm thinking. So, yeah. I'm the one who kind of been calling that the entire time.
I like it.
I very much believe that this will not exist in, at least for sure 5 years. I don't think Leagues Cup is going to be, considered like a trophy that teams are going to want.
Right.
It's just going to be a thing you kind of got to get through.
Understood on that. Let's go quickly. Listen, here's the deal. Let me tell everybody what's going to happen possibly on Thursday. I have a meeting that I might have to go to that's going to be late on Thursday. So there's a chance we won't have a show on Thursday. So if there's not a show on Thursday, I at least wanted to just talk a little bit about Atlanta and get you guys ready for that in case that's the case. I'm going to still try to do something. We're going to figure out exactly when that is. I'm still waiting to hear, but I'm going to try to put something out for you so that way.
That's why you should be at the live show for the preview.
Live show for the, yeah, exactly. We'll be there, but for sure. And we'll have a lot of fun. I think we're going to play some games, do some different things. Like if you have an island and all the LA Galaxy players on the island, you have to kick one player off the island. Who is it? And why is it Miguel Berry first? like it's those questions that you have to ask. And then you start to figure out, so who is the one guy, who's the last player who's on the island, right? Like that's whenever you start going into those things. So it's fan participation. We need your help. We may play that one in there. Maybe we'll play some trivia games again, expecting some little giveaways and things like that. So, yeah. What? I was sorry. What did you say?
I said that should be fun.
It is.
I mean, we can ask like some questions, like weird questions, like what LA Galaxy would you not let date your daughter?
Yeah,
exactly. Things like that. Really get your mind working.
Now I'm thinking. I don't know that I have an answer for that. Let me think some more. Okay, well, we'll answer that question.
That's what we have the chat for now.
Yeah, the chat's going to go wild. All right. LA Galaxy hosting Atlanta coming up at 7:30 p.m. 7:40 p.m. is your kickoff time. This one is on Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. You go back and you look at Atlanta United in that Eastern Conference. They're currently in that 9th position, sitting 7-11-7. But when you look at their recent form, they have been struggling. Let's look at the LA Galaxy's form against them, and with just one win. These teams have only played 4 times. The Galaxy have lost one of those in Atlanta. They've lost one of those whenever it was at LA Galaxy, and then they won the other one. So and there was one more before that was an Atlanta win. I forget, was that one in LA? I feel like it was in Atlanta. I think Zlatan Ibrahimovic didn't play in that game.
Yeah,
right?
he didn't play in that one. That's because of the turf.
Because of the turf. He was like, no turf, no play. It was also right after the All-Star game, if you remember that. And then Zlatan didn't want to play in the All-Star game either. And so I think he didn't play in the All-Star game and then got suspended. He was going to miss that game anyway, but then he was also like, I'm not going to the turf. Yes.
4D chess.
Yeah, always good times. So only 4 times for the LA Galaxy with just one win. But again, we go to the recent form with Atlanta. They have one win. They had a tie before that. They had 3 losses before that. You're talking about losses to New England, losses at RSL, losses at Montreal. So listen, they're losing games on the road, right? New York City, they tied, and then they went and hosted Columbus and beat them 2-1 in their last game. So Columbus, what was up with that? Because that was after we were like, oh, Columbus is the best team in all of Major League Soccer, and now that they put this level of how good Columbus can play, nobody's going to touch them, and then they went to Atlanta and lost that game, and you're like, wait a minute, we were just crowning you the champions of Major League Soccer. You can't do this to us, right? So for me, Atlanta is very much an enigma. A lot of the times, Alex, we would say, hey, you travel all the way across the country, you've been playing other games, you do all this stuff. It's going to be difficult to do. The fact that it is coming out of the break, to me, gives Atlanta a little more credence, a little bit more staying power. They're not going to be as tired whenever they're on the road. They haven't remembered that it's very hard to travel all the way across the country and play. It's like the first game of the season. The road team can win the first game of the season.
Yeah.
That's easy. We're hyped up. We're pumped. They're going to be hyped up and pumped and coming out of this. And sitting in that 9th spot, they need points, and they're going to want to take them from the LA Galaxy. So not an easy game to play. Should be a win, absolutely. But for me, this is a very easily one of those games where you can fall into a trap, and I wouldn't call it a trap game, but you can fall into a trap of giving up an early goal, Alex, and then having to chase the game, and having to do that against Atlanta is not something you want to do.
Yeah, and they're going to be debuting their new DP, Alexei Miranchuk, right? $12 million signing from Atalanta, Russian playmaker. So they put a bunch of money on this guy to be their next star, to be, the guy who's going to lead this rebuild of the team, right? Since they I think, sold like 3 key players in Giacomakis, Almada, Caleb Wiley as well. So, I mean, he might add a little boost there. We'll be able to see kind of their first glimpses of him in MLS action. So, I mean, look, like you said, Josh, they can be an enigma at times. Atlanta's, they can play against some really good teams. They can be really wide open. Their defense obviously isn't great. They have a lot of holes on that team. And I think when you're the LA Galaxy, a team that's, going to attack on transition, that has, overall the better personnel, the better quality, that's overall just in a better mood, I think, just getting Ruiz, trying to push for MLS Cup. I think the Galaxy will be in a much better place, and I think they'll be levels above Atlanta come game time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Again, unlikely that Marco Reus ready to play in this game on Saturday, and so we'll keep an eye on that as we continue forward. I think that's it. I mean, you want to have a prediction for this game, Alex? Do you want to go out on a limb this far? This is really early in the week to have a prediction.
Way too early.
right? And that's sort of, I would wait a little
I'll
bit.
save it for the live show.
There you go. I like it. So we'll be out there at the live show. I'm going to try to put something together on Thursday for everybody, even if that is a show that comes out after, like, later at night or something like that. I'll keep you guys informed as we go. But we want to remind you once again, join myself, join Alex, join the rest of the COG crew, and, of course, Mr. AJ De La Garza, and anybody else I can trap from the LA Galaxy front office to come over and talk to us. We'll be out there for 90 minutes of pregame talk at Galaxy Park. This is Pups at the Pitch, presented by Purina, and we're really glad that they're having us out there. So gates open for that at 3:30 p.m. And you can come on over and start saying hi to us then, and then at about 5:15 we'll start that live show. So, want to get there early, get your seats. I don't know how many people are going to be there. I don't know if there's seats. We're going to have a good time. Everybody's going to be out there. We're going to want to hang around a little bit, and then we're going to be joined by AJ De La Garza. Like, it doesn't get me. If I could have flown Mike McGee out, I would have done that as well, all right? But, small budget here. So AJ was in town, and we were lucky enough to get him. So I'm really excited to have him. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. All right. I think that about does it for tonight. Thank everybody for coming in. Pottermus, by the way, thank you for the $2 super chat. Certainly appreciate it. I think that's the first super chat from Pottermus. Pottermus, where have you been? You're in the chat room all the time. Thank you for the first chat. We appreciate you putting your faith in us for that. So we can't wait to see everybody out there on Saturday. Again, I'll keep you updated on Thursday. I'll do something on Thursday. Let me figure out what that is, and then we'll get it done. All right? So, Alex, anything else you want to talk about? You good?
Did you figure out which player? I'll go just to let you think. For me, I wouldn't let my daughter date Ricky Pooch.
Ricky Pooch?
I feel like he'll tell her that she talks too much. I feel that, I don't know. I just wouldn't let my daughter date Ricky Pooch.
Well, that's because you guys don't like each other, I think. That's what it is.
Maybe.
Maybe. Who knows? That's not true. Who would it be? Man, there's so many good guys on this team.
Exactly.
Like before, it would have been an easy question. Like, you're like,
Douglas
oh,
Costa.
yeah, Douglas Costa. No, Douglas Costa. I would probably say, for me, it's Gaston Brugman, and I love Gaston Brugman. All right, but he's like this. He's so much man in this little tiny package that I don't think anybody can handle that, really, whenever you look at it. So that's for me. I think my daughter can't date Gaston Brugman, but if she brought it, that'd be cool too. Like,
This is real podcasting
this
here, guys. This is real podcast. This is why you tune in.
This is
to Corner of the Galaxy.
This is exactly it. Alex, tell people where they can find you. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter X at ALXRuiz15. You can also find my written work, articles on thegalactictribune.org.
All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter next, at Guesman, at Galaxy Podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. That's where you can find all of our stuff. Look for our podcasts, look on YouTube, all those fun places. You know where it is, cornerofthegalaxy.com. We will see you out at the live show on Saturday, 3:30, gates open at Galaxy Park. Come say hi to us, take pictures, we'll say hi, we can chat, we can tell you all those stories that we can't tell you whenever the light is on, all right? So come out and visit us, and the live show will start at 5:15 p.m. Can't wait to see everybody on Saturday. We'll do something on Thursday as well, so hang in there, I'll keep you updated. Look for that on Twitter, Instagram, and anywhere else you find the podcast information news. All right, for Mr. Alex El Nino Ruiz, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye.